Hey everyone, Sam Calvert here alongside the man, the myth, the legend, Ed Tait in our fancy schmancy studio. We are going to set this one up tomorrow, a big matchup between the 12-4 Saskatchewan Roughriders and the 8-8 Winnipeg Blue Bombers in a West Division fall showdown. So set this one up for us, Ed.
Yeah, it's kind of a mess in the West Division right now behind the Roughriders. As you mentioned, they're 12-4. They've clinched first place in the division. After that, that's where things get a little bit more confusing. Both BC and Calgary are 9-7. Winnipeg's at 8-8. Edmonton's still in the fight at 7-9. So even if Winnipeg wins Friday against the Roughriders to get to 9-8, they don't necessarily clinch a playoff spot yet, as confusing as that may be. If the Elks lose later Friday night to BC, then Winnipeg would be in the playoffs. The one thing we don't want to see happen here is for all these teams to end at 9-9, BC, Calgary, Winnipeg, and Edmonton, which is still a possibility, because if that's the case, then Winnipeg's out of the playoffs, as weird as that is, because the tiebreaker then becomes the head-to-head record against those teams. And Winnipeg would be 3-4 in that head-to-head matchup, and that's the worst of the other teams in that scenario. So I know that's a lot of math here. I'm throwing out a lot of stuff here. Bottom line is win and then get it done next week against Montreal and get rolling into the playoffs. Take care of your own business.
Yeah, I think you said it. The best case scenario here is just to handle our business, right? Coach O'Shea spoke to the media today after walkthrough as well. We have a clip of that.
Both teams are going out and trying to win every game. I mean, that's nothing new. Obviously, whatever happens in this game, you still want to win the next one too, right? So I think there's the understanding that just getting in isn't going to be good enough, right? Like getting in and rolling is what you really want to be doing.
So the Riders clinched first place, so that obviously means they have some lineup decisions to make over the next 2 weeks. The age-old debate, rust versus rest. Obviously, that's something that we're a bit familiar with as Bomber fans, with the Bombers clinching the West Division in the last 4 seasons. So just give us your thoughts on that.
Yeah, it's a big storyline in Riderville right now, and their depth chart kind of reflects some of that decision-making they've got. With the first place clinched, you know, yes, they've got to decide who gets actioned. Can you back off on a guy? Does an injured guy take a rest? And if you look at their lineup for Friday, you know, Jake Mayer will start at quarterback. It's a guy that we're familiar with as a quarterback with Calgary, veteran guy, but Trevor Harris is listed as number 3 on the Riders depth chart. They've also made a ton of other changes, and this is understandable when you've clinched the first spot in the division. Keyshawn Johnson, Dante Myers, a couple of receivers are out. AJ Ouellette, the running back, is out. Roland Milligan, a star defensive back, is out. Marcus Sales, a former Bomber defensive back, is out. Jackson Ford is out. Defensive tackle. Micah Johnson is out. Right tackle Jermarcus Hardrick is out. So there's a ton of changes for the Riders. You know, the Bombers have talked all week. It doesn't matter who's going to be in there because they're going to be professionals on the other side of the ball. And that's all well and good. But this isn't the Riders starting lineup. So the Bombers have got to take advantage of this. As the Riders try to get prepared for the playoffs, the Bombers got bigger things to get to right away. And that's getting a win right away and then put yourself in position to be in the playoffs.
Another big storyline in this one, obviously besides the Bombers needing a big win, is the absence of Nick Demski, who left last week's game with a hamstring injury. Obviously a big impact, a 1,000-yard receiver. Who needs to step up in this one? And just talk about the impact that Nick Demski has for this team.
It's an interesting one, Sam, that all this week it's been the storyline around Winnipeg is who steps in for Nick Demski and how do they cover a guy that's been a 1,000-yard receiver for three straight years. Gavin Cobb is listed as the starter, and you know he's a guy that's been in this league with Edmonton, and Zach Collaros says he has a lot of trust in him. But there's also another change in the receiving corps this week with Carrick Wheatfall coming back and Dylan Mitchell being pulled out. So this is a lineup now that doesn't have Dalton Schoen, doesn't have Nick Demski, and you've got Gavin Cobb in there. And so it's really important that this whole group kind of steps up. You can't ask a guy like Gavin Cobb to provide what Nick Demski does because he's a dangerous tailback once in a while where he gets his hand on the ball, and they talk about how he's the glue in that receiving room. So asking a guy like Cobb to do that's not fair. But this group as a whole can all step up and provide Zach Collaros with a safety net and guys that he knows are going to be in the right places at the right time. So it's something to really keep an eye on, because you can't take the leading receiver out of your team and expect automatically the next guy to step in and get it done.
Yeah, obviously tough to replace Nick Demski for sure. Gavin Cobb spoke to the media after walkthrough today as well.
Man, it's a feeling that I've been waiting on. You know, it's exciting. It's to me, it's been a long time coming. I think I've been patiently preparing and grinding away and just waiting for this opportunity, man. And I can't really, words don't express the excitement that's going through me right now. And I'm just excited to hit the ground running and make some big plays for this offense.
Cobb and Demski are both Manitoba Bison's products, Ed. So that's kind of cool that one is replacing the other. Gavin Cobb spoke about his relationship with Demski in the media today.
Yeah, I mean, me and Nick have a pretty good relationship. I've known of him for a long time. He's a Bison guy. I became a Bison guy. And since I've been here, I think that's turned into a pretty close friendship. And I've been in his ear all week. He's always, spitting me little tidbits of information. And Nick knows his stuff, right? He's been in the league for a long time, and he's been a dominant player for a long time. So anytime he has something to say, I'm all ears. I'm always listening and trying to add that to my tool belt.
You outlined some of the Riders' changes this week, Ed. What are the key matchups for this one?
Yeah, I spoke to Willie Jefferson about this afterwards, because you look at the Rider depth chart and there's so many changes to the offensive line and the receiving core. It's difficult to kind of pinpoint one area to keep an eye on. To me, I'm going to go to an old school kind of battle of the trenches. And when I brought that up with Willie, he got a big grin on his face, because there's some changes to their offensive line with Jamarcus Hardrick out and a different guy at center. And with all those changes to the Riders' offense, I think Winnipeg's front six has got to get after the Riders' offense a little bit. I think they've got to take advantage of the changes to the offensive line and try to get to Jake Maier to make him uncomfortable back there. Winnipeg hasn't got a lot of sacks from its defensive line this year, but that doesn't mean that they can't still pressure and force Jake Maier into some difficult decisions. And when he's got different receivers out there, you maybe hope that there's some changes and that they don't run the right route, or something goes wrong that way and they could take advantage of it. So that's, to me, it sounds so basic, but to me that's one area that I think Winnipeg is really going to focus on, is winning the battle of the trenches, especially on defense versus offense. Now, we could flip that to the other side too. The Riders' defensive line is still really strong, but I think Winnipeg wants to establish the run with Brady Oliveira. There's no changes to what Winnipeg's doing, essentially, aside from Demski coming in and Wheatfall coming in, but this offense still wants to get productive and wants to be the way it looked against Hamilton a couple of weeks ago. So that has to start up front in the trenches.
And we like to come up with a player to kind of keep an eye on game day -1. Who's someone that seems to be on the verge of a breakout game that you want to make your X factor this weekend?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Jarrett Stearns. And, we've been talking throughout this whole show, Sam, about the changes to the receiving corps. So you can't take a Demski out and not have an impact, right? We've been hammering away on that. But Jarrett Stearns is a guy, to me, that I think Zach Claros is developing a trust with more and more with every week, with every snap, with every practice rep out there. He's got 42 catches for 456 yards this year, 4 touchdowns in 12 games. And those numbers might not jump out to you, but I think that he's going to be a really important factor in this game against his old club, the Riders, and going forward, especially without Dalton Schoen, especially without Nick Demski. We don't know about beyond this week whether number 10 will be back. So they need somebody else to step up and become Zach's new favorite target. And to me, Jarrett Stearns fits that bill. That's a guy I'm going to keep an eye on. And you hope that he gets that I'm playing against my old team boost and goes out and proves some people wrong on the other side of the line of scrimmage.
Well, revenge game from Stearns.
Absolutely.
Obviously, it's good to have reliable receivers, especially when you lose some key guys to injury. Another thing we want to do on Game Day -1 is an intrusive thoughts segment. Just a big-time prediction, Ed. We want to hear your biggest prediction for tomorrow's game, especially the bettors. They want to know, because you are the man, the myth, the legend, Ed Tait.
Okay. I don't know where that's coming from, Sam, but here we go. A couple things. I think Winnipeg gets it done this week because of the lineup changes to the Riders. This has got to be a game that Winnipeg wins. And then next week, Montreal is here too, and we don't know what the situation's going to be with the Alouettes, and they could be in the same kind of scenario where they're resting people too. If they already know that they're locked in for second, they're still chasing Hamilton. But by game time next week, Montreal will know whether they've still got a shot at first or whether they're locked into second. So this is where things become weird. I think Winnipeg wins against the Riders, wins next week against Montreal, and that would be 4 of their last 5 heading into the playoffs. And that's what everybody back in that room is talking about right now, is getting on a roll heading into the playoffs. So I think Winnipeg now starts a surge to get to the playoffs and starts playing the kind of ball they want to play. I'm going to say, too, another intrusive thought or deep thought, whatever you want to call it, is I think the Bombers' defense gets a score against the Riders tonight. I don't know what that looks like, whether it's a fumble recovery or an interception, but I think that this defense is in line for a pick 6, a fumble 6, something like that, and I think that could make a big difference in this game.
I mean, Ed, that sounds all pretty awesome. A score and a bunch of wins for the
yeah,
Bombers.
yeah.
No complaints here from me. I'm going to throw out a little intrusive thought as
Okay.
well, based on absolutely zero professional analysis. Gavin Cobb gets his first touchdown in blue and gold tomorrow. Yeah.
That's a hell of a storyline. Sign
Yeah,
me up to write about
absolutely.
that one afterwards. I love it.
Yes. Thanks for watching, everyone. That was Game Day -1, the second ever edition. We might keep doing it. We'll see. Thanks for watching, Ed. Or thanks for
I'll watch it.
analysis,
I'll watch
Ed.
it. Yeah,
Yes.
okay.